80 lucky people got their hands on one of these special Corvettes back in 1968, and now you get to see one up close. 1968 was a big year for the Chevrolet Corvette. This was an all-new design, and a whole bunch of things happened. First of all, Chevrolet changed the way the Corvettes were manufactured. They tried to make them more of a mainstream production model instead of being built on a special line with a little additional care. So for 68, you had not only an all-new car design, but an all-new process in how they built these cars. And that meant they had some issues when the cars first hit the streets. You've heard the old story, you don't buy the first model of any particular generation until they get the bugs worked out. Well, the 68 Corvette was known for having a bunch of bugs in the very beginning. Eventually they sorted this stuff out. Today we're looking at a 1968 Corvette that is fitted with the RPO L88 package, which makes it one of the rarest Corvettes ever built, and the quality issue doesn't even matter on this car. And allow me to explain and qualify that statement. I think the first thing we have to do is look at where Corvette fit into the marketplace. It was Chevrolet's highest line car. It stood for performance, luxury, and status. And that 435 horsepower L71 car is the one that was advertised as being the top flight Corvette. These L88 cars, they kind of flew under the radar. I mean, you had to know what this thing was to order one because this wasn't promoted to the mainstream general public. And here's why, okay? Although the literature claims this thing has 5 less horsepower than the 3 2-barrel L71 car, it turns out the reality is that the engine is very, very different. It's got much higher compression. It's got solid lifters. It's got an aluminum intake and aluminum heads. It's got a single 4-barrel carburetor on it. No options, heavy-duty suspension, heavy-duty brakes. So this car was rumored to be capable of going 170 miles an hour right off the showroom floor. But with that kind of power and performance comes a sacrifice. And in the case of the L88, this car doesn't have any street manners. I mean, although it has a special aluminum radiator, they still ran hot if you drove it on the street. But when you're cruising down a racetrack at top speed, you know, the airflow helps cool it, so you don't have to worry about it idling in traffic on the way to work. These things didn't start very easily. They didn't have daily driver reliability. So as you can imagine, if you're a Chevrolet dealer and you want to sell a car, not only a premium Corvette, but one that has a $947 option package like this L88, but yet it didn't have any of the bells and whistles. So as a dealer, you've got some explaining to do. You know, somebody came up and said, why is this car so expensive when I can get one of the 435 horsepower cars for less money with more stuff on it? You know, what's the deal? So Chevrolet actually kind of discouraged selling this car to the general public because it was only supposed to go to racers who understood what it was. You know, people that weren't going to be showing up at the dealer looking for warranty work because the car was hard to start in cold weather or that it overheated at a stoplight. So it's a very different animal. When you have a car that looks as good as this blue 1968 Corvette, I mean, it's cool even if it doesn't run. But this one runs. Under the hood, you'll find the mythical L88 427, over 450 horsepower, just waiting to be unleashed on the general public. The fun thing is they did a little trickery with that horsepower number because the L71 3 2-barrel 435 horsepower car was rated at 5,800 RPM, and the L88 car was rated less at 430, but also at 4,600 RPM, 1,200 RPM lower than the 435 car, which means this car had a better cylinder head and it had a solid lifter camshaft and higher compression, so it would rev far beyond the 4,600 that it was rated at from the factory. But again, Chevrolet wasn't bragging on these cars when they came out to the general public, so everything was kind of downplayed. There's another interesting tidbit about this car. It's got a T-top, which a lot of people think the name T-top refers to the bar that's exposed when you remove the twin removable panels opening up the roof. And in reality, that's not the case. The T actually kind of stands for Targa top. The term Targa top is a trademark that's owned by Porsche. And a couple years before this car came out, you could go buy a Porsche that had a removable one-piece section Targa top roof. And Chevrolet tried that on this car to make it one piece, but they found they wanted a center bar to add a little reinforcement. So today, a lot of people think it's the T-shape. It actually is short for Targa, but they didn't have the rights to the word. I present to you the Chevrolet 427 cubic inch L88. This is one of the most mythical engines in Corvette history. They only made 80 of them in 1968. And the big deal with this engine is that it's basically a full road race engine in a streetable car that you could buy from your local Chevrolet dealer. Of course, they advertised this at 430 horsepower, but that was only at 5,300 RPM. And these things could spin for at least another 1,000 RPM beyond that. So the actual horsepower numbers, I don't know, probably closer to 550 or so. It's a bad machine. This car is showing 22,000 miles on the odometer, and a lot of these L88 cars were raced. There's not many of them built. These were built for 3 years. In '67, they made 30. In '68, they made 80, and the rest of them were made for 1969. But this car was actually purchased by George Montgomery, and it was used as the official pace car at Minnesota's Donington Speedway Park, which meant this car was not babied, even though it wasn't actually raced in competition, because real pace cars on real racetracks, well, they get driven pretty hard because they got to stay ahead of everybody. Another cool thing is that this car was prepped by legendary Corvette racer Dick Gultstrand, so that it'd be in proper tune to be a good pace car. This car is mostly original. It's been repainted once in the correct Le Mans blue, but it has all of its original paperwork. It's a very documented car, and it lives happily amongst a handful of other L88 cars in the Brothers collection. What'd you think about this all-original, unrestored, 22,000 mile L88 Corvette from the Brothers collection? I think it's pretty cool. You can give us your feedback on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Of course, check out the website at musclecaroftheweek.com. Sign up for our email list so you'll always know what we're doing here at Muscle Car of the Week.